Hi, my name is Greg Sutton and I'm the CEO and co-founder of TinyEYE Therapy Services. TinyEYE provides online speech therapy services, and what that means is we use a technology. It's kind of like Skype. It's got video and audio, and then it's got a ton of bells and whistles with games and reporting, and all the tools a speech language pathologist would need to deliver speech therapy services remotely. And we work in hundreds of schools around the world and many in northern Canada. Where the idea for TinyEYE came from? Well, it came out of a conversation between my sister Marnie Brick and myself, and Marnie is a speech language pathologist, and she was spending half her day driving around in her car, going from school to community center, and she's spending also another big chunk of time doing reporting and very little time sitting with the kids that she had been trained to see and help. And we thought there has to be a better way, and I said, well, why don't you just do this online? We can use audio and video and do it all over the internet. So that was back in 2005, and at that time there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, YouTube had just come out, there was no Skype video calls, and the world was, although it's not that long ago, was a completely different place in terms of how we connect to people. And there wasn't much experience or a comfort level within schools or any systems for doing this type of thing. And that was probably the biggest challenge in bringing a new innovation to northern communities, was not the technology hurdles. Those were huge as well, that we fought bandwidth and all these different things in there, but it was the cognitive barrier that people put up because they had no experience in this, and rightly so. It's hard to say, yeah, you're going to be able to treat my students and give them the same outcomes they would if you actually hopped on a plane and got here. And it wasn't until one school took a chance on us and was able to see what could be done that the whole world turned around. And they took that chance. They're innovators, they were very forward driven, but also they hadn't had a professional at that school in 10 years. It's been like an entire generation of children went without communication skills. And that was one of the drivers for them saying, we can try anything, we just need to do something. And it worked so well that all of the other schools in their region signed up, and we've been working with them for a number of years. So we have two types of technology models that we follow. One is a desktop or a stationary telepractice model where we use standard webcams, stuff that's in your laptop, because we wanted to make it easy for the end user, so they didn't have to buy something expensive. They didn't need any extra equipment. They could use what they had. So we built a web-enabled video conferencing system. And we used that for a number of years and had a lot of success, and we still use it today in many, many places. The evolution of that has come into what is called telepresent robots, and that is essentially adding mobility to telepractice or to telepresence. So that gives the end user who's in a remote location the ability to move around the environment of their audience or their client and observe them in their own environment and interact in that environment. And that's been a huge leap forward. It's like going from a bicycle to a car in this industry. And one of the major things that lead to that is when you talk to someone on a Skype or a FaceTime like technology. If I asked you about your conversation with them, you say, oh, I spoke to them earlier. When you use a telepresent robot and I ask you about your interaction, you say, yeah, I saw them earlier. And you actually assign agency to the person, which means you assign a physical presence to them. And that physical presence enables you to have a different type of emotional interaction at a higher level from our initial research and other research out there. And that's been a huge impact for northern communities in Canada and around the world. The need for speech language pathologists in the north or in rural and remote communities is huge. There's a North American shortage of trained speech language pathologists. Combine that with an increased assessment and initial recognition for the students that do need help with it, it's created a huge vacuum in the supply of speech language pathologists. There's shortages all over the place. And so you also have areas where there's an abundance of speech therapists and they can't find jobs. So using remote technology, we're able to hire people in other locations where there's not the same type of job market and bring them into northern communities where they couldn't attract somebody. Like many of the schools we work with, they tell us we've had a job posting out for 2 years and haven't received one resume. And it's just incredible, you know. And so that's 2 years these kids are going without any services. And really, the benefit of speech language pathology is it enables kids to access their curriculum. It enables kids to access their social groups. It enables kids to participate in cultural events and in sporting activities. And what we do is give them that opportunity to succeed in their life. What do I see in the future for the technology for speech language pathology and in remote communities, and how do I see that evolving? There's a couple key drivers that will be part of that. One is increased bandwidth to these communities, so actual internet bandwidth. Another is the decrease in cost for computing and screen size and things like this. And a third is an increased awareness and engagement of people to use technology to enable solutions. Technology isn't a solution, it's an enabler. It's something that allows a solution to happen.